Okay, I'm back. We're ready to do chapter 2 in the Business Ethics Now, the Leadership Ethics course that you're a part of. Just keep in mind that as I was doing chapter 1, I was setting the stage talking in terms of ethical behavior and trying to define for you what was ethics. And as we go here into chapter 2, one of the things that I want to make sure that you're aware of is that there's a big difference between, I guess I want to say, ethics, ethical behavior. It shouldn't be, but a big difference between ethical behavior. I was talking to you in chapter 1 about the values and ethical dilemmas and conflict and how to resolve those things. When we get here in chapter 2, I'm talking more so about business ethics and how some see business ethics as being an oxymoron, meaning that there's really no such thing as ethics within business. When leadership sets certain priorities and employees do whatever it takes to achieve those, there's this idea that ethics goes out the window. When you look and you think in terms of the 20th century with the scandals with Enron and WorldCom and Arthur Andersen and Tyco and so many others, or the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme, some of those things. That's why people say that ethics does not matter when it comes to major corporations, because they believe that if it comes to a dollar, major corporations are going to do what they need to do to get ahead. Business ethics, though, I truly believe that if you're an ethical person, and if this is something that you focus on in your personal life, that's especially Christians that are supposed to be living by the golden rule and living by what Jesus told us to do, honesty, integrity, those types of things, that carries over into your professional life. There is no distinction. But for folks that don't believe that, and I have seen Christians who compartmentalize work from their spirituality. So let's talk for a minute about business ethics. It is the application of ethical standards to your business behavior. There are two ways or two perspectives that you can approach it. You can approach it by a descriptive way or prescriptive way. Descriptive way of approaching is this. There's documentation of what's happening. Prescriptive or normative is recommendation of what should happen. So just think that this is not applicable as a separate set of moral standards or ethical concepts from general ethics. It's the same thing. You need to think, though, when you think in terms of business ethics, you need to think about those stakeholders. Now, you know from being in a basic business course that the stakeholders would be anybody that's impacted, influenced by the organization. That could be clients, customers, it could be stockholders, it could be the management within the organization, the employees, it could be vendors that you're dealing with, it could be your community. So there could be a multitude of stakeholders that are impacted or influenced by the organization. So just think of it in terms of the stakeholder, someone who shares or they have an interest in the business enterprise. Not every stakeholder is relevant in every business situation. But there is a concern that stakeholders could be impacted by unethical behavior. I've already talked about how business ethics is considered by some as an oxymoron, and that means there's been such a horrible ethical track for many organizations. I mentioned some of the ones from the 20th century, but let's just talk about what's happening currently, and that is what's happening with Wells Fargo Bank. What a horrible situation where employees are opening accounts unbeknownst to their clients, their customers, which are stakeholders, and making sure that they were achieving the goals that the organization had set forward, and the big guys were getting huge bonuses based on those results. And now who's left out at dry would be the small guy who opened those accounts. Although the big guy is sitting on Capitol Hill and having to answer questions, including, are you going to give some of your bonus back? Because it was employees trying to achieve those goals that got you to that. But unethical concerns that can arise in the business environment and those things that impact such unethical behavior like that, all of those things, that establishes a track record for organizations. And that's why you see people saying that when you use the word business ethics, it's an oxymoron. There's something called corporate governance, though, and this is a system by which business and corporations, they are directed and they're controlled. So business ethics is maybe considered an oxymoron, as the business world lacks a sense of ethical behavior. And most see business ethics as just a contradictory type of term. Here's something, though, that companies have put in place that will help guide the behaviors of the managers and the people that work in the organization. You just have to make sure that your values don't conflict with the leadership's goals, and that the goals that the leadership's putting in place doesn't force a person into this gray area or in an area that they know isn't a right area. But the code of ethics that you see organizations use, where I came from in federal government, it was everywhere. What we believed, our values, our core values were listed. I can still see them today. But the code of ethics is a company's written standards of ethical behavior that are designed to guide the managers and employees in making decisions and the choices that they have to face day to day. There are cornerstones of the organization. Those cornerstone issues, pieces of the organization can be found in the mission statement, in the value statement, and in the principles of the organization. Now, there's a dual function for the code of ethics. First, there's a message to the organization stakeholders representing a commitment of the highest standards of ethical behavior. And then two, there's this it serves as an internal document representing a guide to managers and employees in making everyday decisions and choices. So I've already mentioned in chapter 1 how we can run into these conflicts and dilemmas when it comes to acting ethically. An ethical dilemma, as I said, is a situation in which there's no obvious right or wrong decision. Rather, it's right or a right answer. Recognizing the type of conflicts can lead to the resolution of the ethical dilemma. Think about this. I've already mentioned, I believe, about culture, how culture can drive the behaviors of an organization, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. So just imagine these types of things within the organization. Truth versus loyalty. Short-term versus long-term. Justice versus mercy. Individual versus community. So if I'm an individual within an organization where we say we embrace teams, I'm probably at conflict there, but I'm really out for myself. And I could do so many things that would not send the right message. If the organization itself embraces loyalty over truth, meaning I don't care what goes on, you're loyal to this organization and to me, well, that's an ethical dilemma there, and people can really struggle with, okay, do I tell the truth or am I loyal to my boss? I don't want to lose my job. So these are the types of ethical dilemmas that folks deal with in organizations every day. So I've defined for you what business ethics is and what it is and how others perceive it. There's a question on your page 23 in your book, and that is, the customer is always right. You need to read that, and you need to think through business ethics and think through how the organizational stakeholders are impacted by the value calls that we make, the decisions that we make. Think through, is ethics or business ethics really an oxymoron? Do you have that same opinion about business ethics? And think about the history. I've already mentioned what's happened like in the 20th century. Other things have happened too. I've just mentioned some more recent ones, even what's happened here recently over the last year. look at what happened in the bank mortgage industry in 2008, 2009, when we had a huge impact on our economy. And think about business ethics in general. Think about how you would propose a resolution when you have ethical dilemmas, and how you as a leader would start to set processes in place that can help guide the people that work to make sure the organization is held in the highest level of esteem and integrity. And think about how executives and employees seek to justify unethical behavior. All you have to do is go back and pull YouTube videos and watch how some of the testimonies of leaders, or of people, the CEO of Wells Fargo, or people that were in the banking industry in 2008 through 2009, or look at Bernie Madoff, or look at there's so many out there that you can just go and look and see how people justify why something was unethical, why they did what they did. So that's it for now. Thanks for listening in for Chapter 2, and I will see you in Chapter 3.